Hello YouTube, Wes here checking in with a brand new episode of the Vnyl Survivor show. This is kind of the final reckoning for albums I have purchased. This is where I have had a chance to listen to these albums multiple times by the time they get to this point, and I let you know really what my final verdict on them is, and whether they're going to be staying in my collection permanently or whether they just weren't for me and they're going to be going away. So that's what this is all about. Let's go ahead and get into this show. First album I have here for you is kind of a weird piece of late 70s, early 80s kind of kitschy kind of thing. This is Laserium Presents Crystal Odyssey, a classical fantasy. So this was a touring program, laser light show that was a sort of a touring thing, and people at this time, 1981 is the year this was released. Lasers were kind of this new thing, and not, it's not something that you can just go and buy a laser pointer. Lasers were a big deal, and only special people had lasers. So this was, you would go and experience a laser light show set to music, and so this was sort of the soundtrack to one. It's kind of a mixture of classical music and some sort of film score type sounding things that worked well with laser lights. So they have sort of a action-y kind of sound to it. I just think this is really neat, and it would be cool to imagine seeing what there's kind of can see on the back what some of the laser lights would look like projected onto us, whatever. I got some more in here, more photos from this. So it would just be kind of something that people did for fun, for entertainment. It's just kind of a cool piece of history. And I remember the first time I saw a laser light show kind of thing like this. My dad has a friend who worked for NASA in the 80s, and he had a laser, and he had the ability to plug it into a stereo and have the music sort of manipulate the laser beam and makes different shapes and stuff. So it's a simplified version of what this is, but it was amazing nonetheless that we're seeing laser light, and it's just like incredible that you can shine this beam and it goes forever almost. And it was just a cool experience, and seeing stuff like this sort of reminds me of that. So musically, this is not great. This is more of just sort of a weird piece of, late 70s, early 80s kind of nostalgia, or whatever you want to call it. But yeah, I'm going to keep this in my collection. I enjoyed listening to it and imagining what the laser light show looked like. Alright, this next album is from an artist I love, and that is Harry Belafonte. And this is his album Calypso Carnival from 1971. So by this time, he's kind of getting long in the tooth as far as, rock and roll was kind of took over the folk scene that he was a big part of. And so he's kind of more of a lounge act here. You can kind of see it on the back there. Not great musically. He's sort of redoing some of his older songs. He's got some newer songs in here, kind of trying to capitalize on sort of the calypso kind of thing that he was known for. It's not great, but I'm going to be keeping this because I am a completist when it comes to Harry Belafonte. So not something I can recommend, but something I'm going to be personally keeping. It is on RCA Dynaflex here, so yeah, pretty thin, but not something I would particularly take out and listen to very much anyway, so that's not a big deal. But yeah, Harry Belafonte, Calypso Carnival. For me, it's a keeper just because I'm a completist when it comes to Harry Belafonte, but definitely not a recommended album to listen to. Alright, this next one is a recommended album. This is a piece of jazz from Ahmad Jamal titled Happy Moods. And I do not know the year on this one. I'm guessing this is early 60s. Recorded January 20th and 21st, 1960. So, released sometime after that. But yeah, Ahmad Jamal, a jazz pianist, amazing jazz pianist. I love Ahmad Jamal. I pick his stuff up whenever I can find it. this was awesome. Definitely highly recommended if you're into jazz, like Ahmad Jamal at all, or if you haven't heard Jamal before and you happen to find this one, go ahead and get it, give it a try. It's definitely a good one. On the Argo record label, this is a mono version, blue and silver Argo label. Don't have much on that label, but that's a very nice one there. Ahmad Jamal, Happy Moods, awesome. Definitely gets a thumbs up from me and definitely staying in my collection. All right, next up we have a I don't know what you would call a 70s pop vocalist, kind of pop rock vocalist kind of thing. Dave Mason, Alone Naturally. This is sort of a crazy cover here, die cut thing that sort of folds out like this. You kind of see that there. And then the inside here. Kind of see that. Pretty neat packaging on this one. And this is also, as you can see, very cool sort of splattered marble vinyl on Blue Thumb Records. This also was pressed on black vinyl later, and that's most often what you're going to find when you find this album is the black vinyl, but a lot of collectors look for this marbled version just because it's so cool looking. It fits the album cover really well. Yeah, it's cool to find. It's I can't say I'm a real big fan of this album. It's good. It's kind of 70s pop rock kind of sound. So yeah, Dave Mason, Alone Together. It's enjoyable. If you happen to find it, go ahead and give it a try. I'm going to be keeping it. I enjoyed it enough to keep it, but it's not something I say would love or highly recommend, but it's enjoyable. Yeah, and definitely something to look for if you're a collector and you happen to find it for inexpensive price. Definitely go ahead and grab it. All right, the next thing I have to share with you today is an album by Mick Fleetwood titled The Visitor from 1981. It's kind of difficult to show off the cover here. Yeah, kind of a plain cover there. Yeah, this is kind of Mick Fleetwood's version of Graceland. If you like that album from Paul Simon, this blends a lot of that sort of African sounds in as well. It kind of has that same feel to it. It's a good album. I enjoyed it. It's just hard to sort of, even though I think this came out before Graceland, it's hard to sort of step back and listen to it as its own thing. But a good album, and yeah, it's definitely enjoyable if you find it, if you like Mick Fleetwood. Nice insert there. And on the black RCA label. So yeah, that's Mick Fleetwood's The Visitor. If you find it cheap, go ahead and give it a try if you think you might like it. It's not something that I'm highly recommending, not something that you have to have, but an enjoyable listen, and I'm going to be keeping it. It's keeping in the collection. It's enjoyable. Might pull this out. People that like Graceland, I'll say, hey, check this one out. Give that one a try. All right, next we have an album from the classic rock group Spirit. This is Spirit of 84, 1984 album from the group Spirit from Randy, California. Always like this sort of cover art on this one. Kind of makes a statement. I like that. This one's got Mr. Skin on it. I think that's probably the most well-known track on here. But a good solid album. Really enjoyed hearing this. Yeah, just a good album from Spirit. If you like Spirit, it's a little bit 80s, but it's not over the top 80s, and yeah, I dug it. Good album. And that's on the Mercury label. So that's Spirit of 84 gets a thumbs up from me, and I'm going to be keeping this one in the collection. Next up, staying in the 80s, but going into sort of more of a pop thing, art pop kind of sound here. This is Grace Jones with Bulletproof Heart, 1989, so late 80s here. And yeah, Grace Jones, I mean, she's great. and definitely dug here in this album. It was pretty good stuff. So if you like that, if you like her, if you like art pop kind of stuff, 80s art pop kind of stuff, yeah, this is a good one. Inner sleeve there. Nice purple capital label. Very nice. So yeah, Grace Jones, Bulletproof Heart. Definitely liked it. Gives a thumbs up. Gets a thumbs up from me, and it's going in my collection. All right, next up, this one is a reissue of a classic 90s album. That's Beck Odelay. This is a Vinyl Me Please reissue. You got Devil's Haircut on here, New Pollution, Where It's At. Definitely a classic early 90s album. I remember going into high school, and we would turn on the TV in our homeroom class and watch MTV, and videos for this would be on a lot at the time, so it's very nostalgic for me, but awesome to have this on vinyl. I was really happy when it was announced. Finally, Please did a poster with liner notes and some cool little artwork there, and then this really cool sort of translucent, smoky, deep red, rusty kind of color. Very, very nice. Beck's Odelay definitely gets a thumbs up. Very nostalgic and very well loved, and staying in my collection. Next up was a blind buy from Vinyl Me Please that I've been sort of bouncing around in the inbox for a while, and finally got through listening to a couple times, and really thoroughly enjoyed this album. It kind of has a large indie rock group kind of sound to it. Very good if you like big indie rock bands, like I've talked about Stars and stuff like that in the past. You might like this, but this is the Dave Harrington group with Become Alive. Do not know the year on this. I'm guessing somewhere around 2015 or so. It's a fairly new album. Yeah, not very much in the way of liner notes on this one at all. Not even any song titles on the album. Just plain black vinyl. But yeah, that's Dave Harrington group, Become Alive. I dig this a lot. If you're into modern indie rock groups and you haven't heard this for some reason, maybe give it a try. You might like it. I dig it. It's staying in my collection. All right, and last thing I have to share with you today is a piece of modern electronic. I don't know exactly how to explain this. Modern electronic, sort of very rhythmic kind of electronic music, and that is the band Classics, Grecian Summer. Back. This is also a Vinyl Me Please blind buy from one of their garage sales. I got number 64 here, so low number on this. That's cool. Very colorful inner sleeves, and it's a 2 LP set pressed on white vinyl. Pretty nice. There's one of the LPs there. Yeah, so that's the last one I have to share with you. Classics. It's staying in my collection. This one's from 2016 on the Innovative Leisure label. Good stuff. Check it out if you're into modern electronic kind of dancey kind of stuff. So thank you for watching this episode of the Vnyl Survivor. Hope you enjoyed it. Have a great day, a great night, and we'll see you again real soon. Cheers.